Hello friends, welcome to yet another video. So if you want to actually create some AI agents and do it professionally, like offer it as a service or as an agent to your customers, you would like to do production hosting of Flowise. So one of the biggest challenge that is there is that you need to have proper SSL based hosting that requires a reverse proxy to be set up, and it should be in a cloud service. So we will use AWS today for the deployment of Flowise, and we'll use NGINX along with Flowise. So NGINX will act as our reverse proxy, and with NGINX, there will be Let's Encrypt in the backend, so that will manage our SSL certificate, auto renewal, etc. So let's go to our AWS console and get started. Okay. Okay, so this is my AWS console. What I'll do is I'll just click on launch instance and we'll create a new instance here. So let me name it as Flowise AI, and uh, let's use Ubuntu, and I will use 22.04 LTS here. You can use your preferred flavor. And then instance type T2 micro is okay for us, but you can change it depending on the resources that you want to allocate to this system. And you need to select your key pairs. So I'll choose mine. And there are VPC and subnet settings, which typically doesn't concern us. But what is important is these firewall rules. So SSH, HTTPS, and HTTP, all three should be allowed. So HTTP should be allowed because our certbot will be using it. That will happen in the backend with NGINX. So we need not worry about it. But then it validates the A record using HTTP and HTTPS both. So both of them needs to be allowed. And then we can add one more firewall rule for port number 81. So I'll just add a security group rule, and that will be for 81 because our sorry, this is IP addresses. So I'll say everyone, and then here in our port range, I'll choose 81. So 81 is used by NGINX NPM. NPM stands for NGINX Proxy Manager. That's a GUI tool, and we'll be able to do a lot with the GUI tool. So for now, we have added this 81 port here. So total 4 ports are allowed currently. That is 22, and then HTTPS, HTTP, and 81. So let's go ahead and launch our instance. And I have got a elastic IP address here. So you should have a static public IP address if you want to host it professionally, right? So this is my public IP address, and you also should have a DNS record created. So my domain is hosted with Namecheap. I have already created an A record for Flowise. So my FQDN is flowise.securityfocal.com. And you can see it's pointing to my AWS Elastic IP address. So let's assign this Elastic IP address to the machine that we have just created. Okay, Flowise AI is there, and I'll click on associate. Perfect. So next we'll use PuTTY to connect to our servers. So I'll just use PuTTY. And this FQDN I'll change. I have the certificate already mapped here, so I'll just change it to Flowise dot securityfocal.com 22, and I'll click on open. There will be a warning, which is okay. So okay, so I am inside my Linux server. Next I'll do an update. So sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade -y, and let it fetch the details and update itself. Next, we'll deploy Docker and Docker Compose on this Linux server. So I will leave the link of this URL on like how you can deploy Docker on the Ubuntu system. And it has clearly defined instructions here. So you have to start here if it's a new server. So let's see if our update is completed. It's still processing our update. Okay. Okay, we are done now. So next we'll just use Docker's official GPG here that is required for the installation. So sudo apt get update, then install CS certificate curl, next NGINX, and next. Make sure you don't skip any of these steps, otherwise you will land into an error and that may be difficult to troubleshoot. There's one command, so I'll just copy this and I'll paste it here, and then I'll update it again, and then I'll use this command to install Docker. So that will deploy Docker and Docker Compose. One more thing is there. I basically want to be able to run this Docker without using sudo every time, right? So that's there's another link from the Docker website. I will post both of these links in the description of the video, so you can connect to those links. And this is basically the command that we'll be using for that one. Okay, this installation is completed. Now we have to verify if the Docker is installed properly. So I'll use hello world here. So it's not able to find the image locally. So it will pull it from the Docker. Yeah, you can see hello from Docker, which means our Docker deployment is settled. Next, I want to be able to run Docker command without using sudo every time, right? So there's a single command for this one, sudo user mode -ag Docker user. And then after that, I need to log out and log in. So what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this session and I'll exit from the earlier session. Okay, so next, this is the Flowise GitHub repository, right? So here you can see the Docker directory, and Docker directory has Docker Compose file, right? But it doesn't natively include NGINX and npm, right? So that's not part of the Docker. You get two options here. One, you can deploy NGINX manually, and then you can modify its configuration files. And second option is to use Docker Docker container for NGINX Proxy Manager. So that's what I'll be doing here. So what I have done is I have modified this Docker Compose file and I have included two more containers here. So you can see that this is for NGINX Proxy Manager. I've included this here, and it also requires MariaDB database, right? And then I've just copied everything that is there in the Flowise Docker file, right? So you have to be careful if you are merging these manually, because even if a space is there and there, Docker will give you a lot of issues, right? So you can use this one, or you can do a merge on your own. So what I'll do for now is I'll just sync this repository. So let me just go to code and I'll just copy it and go to my Linux system. And let's see where we are. So we are in our home directory. So what I'll do is I'll do a git clone for my GitHub repository. Similarly, in my env file, right, I have included some additional parameters. I've also enabled this username and password, right? So make sure that in the env file you enable this username and password because you are publicly hosting your Flowise, so you have to make sure that it's secure. And then if you will scroll down, right, here you can see that I've included our parameters that are required for NGINX password manager. NGINX Proxy Manager. So we should be, it seems to be cloned. Let's just check it. Yeah, so let's move to the directory and I can see we have our Docker Compose and that env file right there, right? So let's just say Docker Compose. Let me just minimize it for better visibility. Docker Compose up -d. And you can see these errors because a number of parameters are not configured for uh, Flowise, but that's fine. So it doesn't concern us as well as far as our Docker images are getting downloaded. So we just need to give it a moment here, and once it's done, right, we will configure our NGINX Proxy Manager to be able to connect to Flowise using HTTPS. So make sure you don't do a fast forward, skip any particular steps because that may land you into errors. Okay, this is almost done. It's taking a moment here. Let's just wait till it's pulled and validated. Yeah, so looks like we are all set, right? So you can see that we have got three containers here, right? One is for Flowise and one is for NPM or our proxy manager application, and the third one is for the database. So if I do Docker space PS, then I'll be able to see these three containers running here. Next, we'll just go to the NGINX console. So to do that, I'll just put my FQDN here in the address bar. So flowise dot securityfocal.com colon 81. Remember, our proxy manager works on 81 port. Default username is admin at example.com and password is change me, all small letters. So change me is the password, and let's go ahead and hit sign in. I don't want to remember it, so here you can change those details. So let me change it to myself. So I'll say name is Kumar, and here also I'll say Kumar only. Full name I'll say Kumar AS, and I'll put my email address here, and I'll hit save. Then it'll ask for password. So current password, as we know, is change me, all small letters. I'll just change it to something else. So NGINX Proxy Manager is a very powerful tool. You can basically use it to reverse proxy for multiple different services. And that way, you can also use a single elastic IP address for multiple services. I have created a separate videos for NGINX Proxy Manager. If you would like to understand in detail on how you can do it, I would suggest you refer that video. I will leave a link to this video in the description. So now we'll go ahead and create our host here. So I'll say proxy host and add proxy host. Here, right, we need to give our domain name. So my domain name is flowise.securityfocal.com, and it's on HTTP only, and I can put the private IP address here from AWS. So what is my private IP address? To check that, I'll go to my Flowise AI instance, and here you can see my private IP address. It's 172.31.13.91. So here I will put my private IP address and forward port. So we know that default port of Flowise is 3000, right? So here I'll say 3000, and then I'll go to the SSL section, and here I'll say request a new SSL certificate. So that will request a new SSL certificate from Let's Encrypt, and I can say force SSL here, and I need to agree to Let's Encrypt terms of service, and then I'll click on save. So remember, I told you you need to allow access to HTTP as well as HTTPS. Otherwise, this step will fail, because at the time of certificate validation, Let's Encrypt uses HTTP as well. So we'll just give it a moment, and you can see that it's done, right? So now let's try to open it in a new browser tab, and I'll just say flowise.securityfocal.com and hit enter, and I am here, right? So you need to enter your username and password. Our username was user and password is 1234, right? So here we had our username and password somewhere. Okay, let's try to find it quickly. If I, yeah, so you can see that our username was user and password was 1234, and here I'll hit login, and I'm able to log in into my Flowise. And from here I can change it to the dark mode because I personally like dark mode, and then you can get started by creating agent flows. It's now on your FQDN, right, with a public IP address, so it's globally available and it's secure, right? So you can see the certificate that's issued by Let's Encrypt here. So if you want to create a new AI agent with Flowise, I have created a number of videos around this. So I'll leave link of this video in the description on how you can create your first AI agent. That's it for this video. Thanks a lot for joining today. And please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel.